Hey crafty ladies, how you doing today? I'm going to give you a short tutorial as soon as my lips and my tongue start cooperating on how to make a paper mache bodice that I'm going to be using in the upcoming Ustream class for creating with details. I'm going to be using the Sweet and Chic wall hanging kit that May and I have put together, and I want to show you before I get started on the doll why I wanted to do this video early, so that if you want to do one like mine, and you certainly do not have to because there are so many ways, and I will share in the description below the gorgeous wall hanging that May made with the same kit. There's a gazillion ways you can do this, but I wanted to show you what I'm going to be doing, so if you want to make one like it, you'll be prepared when the class is being held. Now, I don't have a date on that yet. We're still waiting for everyone to get their kits and so on, so I will keep you posted on when that's going to happen. So here is the bodice that I used on a previous piece that I made for creating with details last year. This is, let me get the camera right, the bodice that I'm going to show you how to make out of paper mache that you can use on your wall hanging. Now obviously the one that I'm going to be doing in the class is going to be different than this one. I really vintaged this one up with coffee and tea dyes because I really wanted that vintage appearance. So I wanted to show you briefly why I'm making this video, and also to say that there are tons and tons of videos out there on how to do this paper mache bodice. I am not the originator of it. I'm just going to show you how I do it. You can do it this way, or you can just Google it or YouTube it and take a look at some other versions. There might be something that's easier for you to do another way. So the first thing you're going to need is a Barbie doll type doll. Now I found this one at the thrift store, and as you can see, I have dismembered her. I took her head off and I took her arms off just because I am using this particular doll strictly for making the paper mache dress forms. And you can use, like if your daughter has some Barbie dolls or similar type dolls, you can use those because you won't damage them. I would just, if it has hair, I would just wrap it up and put some saran wrap with a rubber band around it. The arms you can just lift up because the only part you really need is right here. This is as far as you're going to go. The next thing I do is to take some saran wrap and wrap it around the body. This keeps makes the paper mache come off easier after it's dried. Now, I would advise, because she's curvy, disproportionately so, but that's for another time. I would recommend that in order to get your cinched in waist and bodice, that you use a little bit of like Scotch tape just to cinch that in tightly so that you don't have any bumps or wrinkles in your dress form, in your finished piece. And wherever you think, like I usually do it right around the hips, just to kind of smooth it all out. This part doesn't even matter. And then I do the same thing at the top. Now right in here, in the breastbone area, I take a piece of tape and just put it down there so you get that definition, because the saran wrap is kind of bulky and you can lose that definition. And I just tape it all around there and on top just to keep it smooth, because there are wrinkles and you can you can see here on the back, I don't know if you can see it, there's little bubbles right here, and I don't want those to interfere with the finished piece, so I just take some tape and just kind of smooth those out just to give it that smooth finish product. And like I said, you will probably take more time assuring that this is smooth and finished when you're doing yours, but as you can see now, I do have a little more definition. And after I show you how to do the paper mache project process, I'll show you how you can further define this as it's drying. So the next step is you need to take some paper, and you can use old book pages, newspaper, um, scrapbook paper, any kind of paper you want. And you're also going to need a mixture of glue and water. And I use a 50-50 mixture for the paper mache. And then you're going to want to take your papers and then just rip them like this. And as you're applying it, you're going to probably want to rip, you know, some smaller pieces to get it to, I should have done this ahead of time so that you didn't have to listen to that horrible racket. Just rip them into various sizes and triangles and so on. And then what I do when I'm doing the paper mache part, and this gets messy, so if you have an aversion to stuff on your hands, you might want to wear, you know, a pair of disposable gloves or something like that. But I just put the paper into the paper mache or the glue, and then I just take my fingers and squeeze off the excess. Now, you might want to keep a wet towel or a baby wipe or something on hand while you're doing this. I'm just going to set that aside so I can show you. You can start this wherever you want to start it. I generally start in the bodice area, and you just tuck. See how you can tuck around there? You don't have to worry about this being perfect, because when it's done, it's going to be covered with laces and fabric and so on. But you do want to try and get it smooth. And then here in the back where it overlaps, I just rip that piece off and stick it like on the waistband. And I try to keep the top of the bodice as straight as possible, because that way when the finished piece is done, when it's dried, you don't have a lot of, and if you rip like I just did right here, don't worry about it, just smooth it over, it'll dry just like that. That's the nice thing about doing it this way, is doing the paper mache, is it's very forgiving. You can work out any wrinkles, smooth them, any bumps you don't like, you can take them out, but it doesn't have to be an exact thing. So again, I'm going to take some paper and put it into the glue and just continue wrapping the dress form. Now I let mine dry overnight, just so that I'm fairly certain that it's completely dry. But depending on temperature, humidity, that kind of thing, it usually dries like, I would say 4 to 6 hours, something like that. But again, it's all depends on the weather. So just dipping and adding. And here, when you get to this area around the hips, you just want to smooth it back like that. And then just run your fingers. Again, if you feel that it's not forming well enough, you can tuck it. But this particular piece is cooperating. And then I take another piece and go to the back and do the same thing. And this is where you're going to have your tucking and pinching, because obviously with the curves it's not going to take a straight piece, but I just kind of go down like this and just tuck and fold, tuck and pinch, I guess you would say, and just smooth it around. And you're going to see that as you're adding more layers, that sometimes these pieces that you've put on first are going to move, they're going to bubble. That's okay, because you're going to continue to fuss with it as it's drying, and that's where you can get whoops, you can get your areas like in here to be further defined, because as it's drying you're going to want to continue to smooth it, and just push that down so that it stays defined, because as it dries it will stay that way. Now here I'm taking this is as far down as I'm going to take it, but if you wanted to make a longer dress form, you certainly could, and you could go all the way to ankle length if you wanted it, and make a stunning little dress form, especially with all of the gorgeous laces that Creating with Details has. And I probably will be doing another one of those soon, because now that I've got my hands back in the glue, I'm looking at this and thinking, oh man, oh yeah, this would work. Yep, yep, yep. So you just never ever know. When you start doing something, your mind starts swirling, as you crafty ladies know, and you start getting a million other ideas as you're working on a project. And I've often said, I wish that I could, in some ways, videotape my brain so that I could hang on to the ideas that roll through it as I'm working. But then on the other side of that, it might be like a scary movie, trying to interpret what my brain is doing. I'm sure I would have trouble with that, as most of us probably would. So basically, that is how you do the dress form. Now, as you get your first layer on, I would recommend, I usually do, at least 2, possibly 3 layers on this dress form, just to give it the stability, because when you cut this off, you don't want it to rip or fall apart. You want it to be sturdy. And I will be adding some more layers, but I'm not going to bore you with that whole process, because it's just not necessary. You've got the gist of it. And then I have this really fancy drying tool that I use, and it's a tin can that I've just cut the top off, and I just set her in here and let her dry. And frequently I will, as it's drying, I will go back and continue to smooth and cinch to keep it smooth and to keep her voluptuous shape intact. So that's pretty much it for how you make the dress form. If you want to make a dress form like I'm making for the project that I'm doing, just leave this dry until we get to, I am so sorry, until we get to the class, and then I'll show you how to cut it. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and I will see you all soon. Bye-bye.